Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Making Sense of Recent Changes to Admissions Policies and Practice session. I'll start by applauding you for taking time out of your busy weekend to attend these educational sessions. As you all obviously realize, the college admissions process and the prep, the search, the application, the admissions process is a milestone in life. So again, my applause for attending this session. A little bit about myself, and we'll jump right into this presentation. My name is Don Pitchford. I'm coming to you from my home office outside of Austin, Texas, and been with ACT for the past 16 years. I've helped hundreds of colleges develop holistic review processes, admission policy, merit-based scholarship policy, and help them with recruiting freshman classes from the East to the West Coast. So that's a little bit about me with the ACT. Before that, I've been in college admissions my entire life at a large public land-grant institution. And so along the ways, I've learned a lot about the process, all of the nuances, how colleges make not only admissions decisions, but make merit-based scholar decisions as well. Today, my goal is to take what could be a day-long seminar and condense it into 30 minutes. So my goal is to, hopefully you'll have 3 or 4 tips that you can immediately apply while you're working with your high school counselors and with your students. I understand we have parents on here as well. So with that said, we'll proceed. I promise I will try my best not to read from you off the slides, but I'll try to stick to the agenda. I'm a storyteller, so if I get off the agenda a little bit, I'll try to get back on quickly. But I have 4 children of my own, so not only have I been in college admissions my entire life, but I have a college graduate, 1 currently in college, and then 2 sons in high school. So with that said, I really like this slide. I want to be clear that the process does not have to be this complicated. I also want to be clear that although I have extensive experience in the college admissions process, both on the campus and with ACT in a consulting capacity, that I don't have the recipe of what it's going to take for you to get admitted into your top choices. But what I do have is we'll be able to discuss some tips today about the process, and hopefully it will clear up some of the ambiguous items while you're going through the application process. By the way, college admissions has always been, for some institutions, a complicated process. And as you all might expect, the recent pandemic has really further complicated it, not just for students that are applying, but even for those of us that worked in admissions our entire life in looking at the way we review applications. So again, we'll talk about some of those variables that's used in the holistic review process as we progress through this slide deck. So again, truth be told, it is certainly complicated. I'll try to apply this agenda and basically just give you advice on just keep everything in perspective. And you'd really need to anticipate the variability between colleges you're applying to. The institution type, whether it's public, private, whether it's a 4-year land-grant institution, whether it's a research institution or a regional institution, you're going to experience variability in how colleges make admissions decisions. So just prepare yourself for that. Also, just some advice, ask questions. The admissions professionals I have found to be extremely bright and very kind individuals. So make sure you always ask questions. They're great about getting back to emails and even text sometimes. So keep in contact with your admissions representatives that you're working with, and then use the resources. I'm going to share 2 resources with you at the end of this presentation that are completely free. And I certainly hope you use those when you're going through the process. So then to be very clear again, as the previous slide showed, it is complicated. But it really doesn't have to be that way. And I wish everyone would experience this level of euphoria in the college admissions process. But the thing I want to really point out about this slide is most of the students that are attending this session today are on the verge of being in the college admissions process. But you're currently in the moment, you're in high school. And you really need to keep that in perspective. Your high school days are some of the best days of your life, and they don't need to be full of stress about the college admissions process. I know chasing the college dream is great, but don't let it come at the expense of not enjoying your high school career. So I tell my own children that all the time, because even though I'm involved in college admissions, I've watched them stress a lot about that. So the highlight of this slide again is enjoy the moment, and try to apply, try to use the resource that's around you every day, such as a high school counselor. I know this is kind of this can many times feel how the process is. Have you started looking at colleges yet? You're not only going to get that from your high school counselor, but you're going to get that from your parents. You're going to get that from aunts and uncles, from grandparents, from your neighbors, and so forth. So it can be stressful, and it might feel a bit like you're looking into a daunting maze such as this, but I can reassure you this, and it's advice that's substantiated, as you'll see on some further slides, but this does not have to be overwhelming. There's resources for you. I just want to encourage you to take advantage of all those resources. But again, it doesn't have to be overwhelming. And that's just not me saying that. There's a group of institutions that have formed what's called the Education Conservancy, okay? So know this, at least 28 vice presidents from these highly regarded selective institutions all say applying to college does not have to be overwhelming, okay? So if schools like Yale and MIT, Cornell, Harvard, University of Chicago believe this to be true, I think it's good counsel for all of us. So with that said, we'll dive a little deeper into this and hopefully be able to get through all of these slides. The wisdom for overwhelmed students and families draws on not only my experience, but just on good experience from high school counselors again, and your parents, and anyone close to the process. Know this much. Remember, your self-worth is not measured by an admissions decision, test score, or GPA. Very important. This is also important, okay? Most students get admitted to the college that they want to attend. Know that, and hopefully that's reassuring to you. A mentor of mine once told me that over 75% of the things we worry about usually never happen. So know that most of you will, in fact, get admitted to colleges you want to attend. The guidelines, take ownership. The more you do for yourself, the better the results will be. Don't be a bystander in this process. I know many times parents can do this for you, big brothers and big sisters and friends and high school counselors, but take ownership and stay involved in the application process. I know many of you have National Common App accounts already open. It's extremely user-friendly interface, so take ownership. Be deliberate. Conduct research. It's all at your fingertips. Conduct research using college websites. Contact faculty members about information for majors. You will be so surprised how much a faculty member will respond to some of your questions about programs. And admissions counselors obviously will respond as well. Take care to examine and identify your own interest and learning style. Let me speak quickly about that. On the ACT, for those of you who have taken it, when you register to take the ACT, one of the things you do is you take a series of what's called interest inventories. So what the interest inventories do is they look at your interests, they look at your abilities, and they look at what you value. And that's an important part of the registration process, because a result of that will tell you which college majors and what work clusters and work segments best align with who you are. So again, that's a free interest inventory available to you in My ACT when you're registering for the ACT. Be realistic. Plan to make well-considered applications to most suitable colleges. I know some students that apply to 15 or 20 colleges, okay? You know, a number around 6 or even less should suffice. And you've probably gotten good counsel saying, you know, you probably know the difference between what a reach school is. You may hear some people say, that's my reach school. And those are usually the highly selective colleges. And then some people use the terminology, I have some safety schools as well. Again, research their websites. Many times the application criteria or the admission criteria are listed right on their website. Again, choosing a college is an important process, but it's not a life or death decision. You're going to learn here in a few slides that regardless what college you choose, there's so many opportunities for you to take at the colleges rather than just going to class and so forth. I'll talk about internships and other type of cooperative learning experience as well. You can't know everything about every college, so some educated guessing is indeed okay. One other thing before we go on to be open-minded, nothing can replace the college visit. If you have the means to take college visits, by all means do so. There's something we call in college admissions, we call the aha moment. And I know many families and students that go to visit their first choice college, or at least what they thought was their first choice college, and they just don't experience that moment. And then they visit a college that's maybe on their choice set where they experience that. And it's a great feeling. I've had several conversations with students saying, you know what, this wasn't my top choice, but I'm pretty sure this is where I need to be. So again, take your college visits. Resist the notion that there's one perfect college. Great education happens in many places. So again, stay open-minded, be realistic, take ownership. Additional guidelines is use a variety of resources. Don't just visit the website. Don't just trust your favorite teacher, your high school counselor. And I know some parents, you certainly have ideas where you'd like your students to attend. Many of us want our students to attend our alma mater, but stay open-minded. Use the resources and try not to limit your perspective, okay? Listen to those who know and care about you. One of your best resources is you probably have friends in older grades that maybe have gone to a college that is on your choice set. Ask your friends when you see them, they come home for holidays and so forth. Many colleges now have student ambassadors to where you can actually start asking questions, you know, as you're a prospective student. So listen to those who know and care about you. Be honest, don't try to game the system. There's many opportunities when you're making application to put in self-reported scores. Okay, what is your class rank? You know, what is your high school GPA? Self-report your standardized test scores. Be honest, be honest. You know, eventually they may ask you to validate any of the self-reported information you have. So don't try to game the system. The best piece of advice that you've students that are on this, that you've been hearing in your entire life from your parents, go to class and work hard. Take more rigorous coursework in high school, okay? Do your best. Your high school transcript now more than ever can demonstrate the amount of academic potential you have. Take the more rigorous courses if possible. So I'll talk more about how variables are weighted in the college admissions process, but high school transcript is certainly a very heavily weighted variable that goes into the college admissions decision. Be active and serve others. You know, social emotional qualities and strength are certainly desirable. They correlate with academic success. What does this mean? Okay, this means things like discipline, interpersonal skills, academic confidence, social skills. Some people call it grit and perseverance. Extremely, extremely important. So make sure your social emotional qualities are certainly matured to the point to where they'll help you succeed, to succeed at the next level. So I mentioned this concept previously, and this is all supported by the Educational Conservancy. So what you do in college is better predictor of future success and happiness than where you go. So let me restate that again. What you do is a better predictor of success than where you actually go. Okay, what does that mean? I'll use my daughter as an example now. She is taking advantage of optional internships and job shadowing opportunities, part-time job positions, college work study. Okay. Now, a lot of her friends are more involved in social activities at college, to where my daughter and a lot of her friends are busy developing their resumes. There's also research opportunities, freshman research opportunities at a lot of institutions where you can get research experience right in year one. So again, this is a slide I really want to emphasize again. Remember, don't think you have to end up at a certain college because that alone is going to determine your success. What you do while you're in college is a better predictor of success. So again, just want to stress that. Some more information for families: your students' skills, self-confidence, curiosity, and desire to learn are most important. So please do not sacrifice these over emphasizing getting into the best college. This is probably the biggest trap most of us parents fall into. And again, I had a conversation with my son the other day, who's a upper quarter student, does well on standardized tests, but he came to me with questions about a career technical college, okay, and learning a skill. So all I ask is, again, to be completely open-minded to any type of opportunity for post-secondary learning and lifelong learning. Again, don't sacrifice overemphasizing you have to get into the best college to succeed in life. Okay, very important. Admission test policies. I want to talk a little bit about a national overview, and we've designed these slides to where they're meaningful to you. I promise they won't be a deep dive into the data, but I think it will be helpful because everyone needs to know a little bit about the national overview of what's happening, okay? We talked earlier about the college admissions process, and it has changed since the pandemic, but the variables are still very similar, okay? On all admission applications, whether you're applying directly on a college's local application, whether you're using a statewide portal, like here in Texas, we have Apply Texas, or whether you're using the National Common App, know that there's common biographical and demographical information that colleges are going to ask about you, okay? Know there's also usually an application fee. Know that in most all cases, they're going to ask you for an official high school transcript. And many will do an in-depth evaluation of that transcript, okay? Didn't do well your freshman year, but look at the student finished strong, and vice versa. You don't want to be that student that don't have a good track record of finishing strong, okay? They want to look that you took the core courses, obviously. They want to look that you took the more rigorous courses, if you have honors courses and so forth. So know that high school transcript is kind of a really good look into your academic career from freshman to your senior year. Test scores. I'm going to talk about test optional here in the next two slides. But know this, as the name would imply, test optional. Okay, test optional. More on that later. Many colleges require an essay or personal statements to some short answer questions. For those of you that have been in the National Common App, you'll be aware of that. Some will require an admissions interview, and there's all types of resources out there to help you prepare for an admissions interview. Certainly would highly encourage you to role play with a classmate or an individual on a potential college admissions interview questions. And again, as I mentioned, high school coursework, the rigor analysis, make sure you're taking the more rigorous courses. And by the way, the research will clearly show the more rigorous courses you take, as you might imagine, there's a very high correlation on your performance on standardized tests. Okay. So then, since the pandemic, as I mentioned, there's been little change. This slide is a little confusing, I know, okay? But all of these variables colleges are still looking at since the pandemic. So again, there's been very little change at what variables they look at. But what has been a major change is the prioritization and emphasis shift, okay? Or I like to call it how each of these, I'm unsure if you can see my cursor, but how each of these variables are weighted, okay? That's where the variability comes from. Some colleges may put more weight on your high school transcript. Some still weight test scores. Some will put more weight on letters of recommendation or on your essay or on the interview. So as we've seen test optional policies increase since the pandemic, we've also seen the holistic review process, much more variance in that. Confusing, I know. Let's see if we can help clear some things up about test score policy changes. I'm going to share the raw numbers about test optional. Know that there's state level variability. Some states have colleges that are completely test optional, to where some states never went test optional. And I'll talk a little bit about some nuances as well. So the raw data is clear. Know this, 83% of over 2,000 four-year schools nationwide now report they are either test optional or blind. That is fact, and that's important to know. And know that there's little difference between public and private schools. But this next slide is revealing. 24% of all test optional institutions publicly report, okay? I probably need to bold that report publicly that they continue to use and value the test for course placement, for academic advising, for academic support, and for scholarship awarding. Okay, so I want to emphasize this. Be very careful to not equate test optional with completely test blind, okay? Because it still can benefit you for all of these reasons and in the admissions process. 24% of all test optional institutions report publicly that they continue to use and value the test, despite the fact that they are, in fact, a test optional institution. So very important. And by the way, this slide deck will be available for you as a PDF, I know, after this program. I'm sure how I'm doing for time. So questions to discern about test optional. And these are good questions hopefully your high school counselors are talking to you about, and that you certainly should be talking to admissions counselors about at the colleges you're looking. How does your school use the ACT for admissions? Is it one of the variables? How's it weighted? Is submitting test scores more important if I apply to certain majors? What if I'm looking at a STEM major versus a art or history or liberal arts type of area? So know that could be advantageous to you, that may be looking at a STEM type major. Does your school use test scores after students enrolled? I know that can be confusing, but many schools look at a test score, okay? Let's say you did really well on the ACT English and math subject tests. Many schools will use those for placement or even for accelerated placement. Let's say you did really well on the English subject test or the math test, and instead of putting you in a freshman course, they may exempt you from that course and put you in a higher level course. Parents, saves you money. Students, that saves you time. So know that there's other reasons that colleges use the ACT for outside of just determining admissions and scholarships, okay? Again, the big question is, does test scores provide a competitive advantage for some students, or does it disadvantage students? Okay. Number 5, very important, parents, students, do you have merit-based scholarships? You may be test optional admissions, but are you test optional scholarships? A brilliant question to ask an admissions counselor. Do you have scholarships to where I'll completely be taken out of the consideration for if I don't submit a test score. Very important, very important. Okay. Navigating other admission policy changes, okay? So, prominence of other factors is certainly increasing. We've talked a lot about these already. I know I promised to stay on agenda, but sometimes I get ahead of myself. Again, with the expansion of test optional schools, many have put new emphasis or weights on different criteria. You know, again, maybe since the pandemic and since going test optional, that essay or the letter of recommendation or the interview or your high school transcript is now much more heavily weighted in the decision factor, okay? We know this. Admission leaders are certainly committed to assessing readiness and committed to supporting student success and completion and retention. It's in the best interest of the institution. But here's what has happened. Since the pandemic and since many test optional policies have developed, after many, many years of heavily weighting a standardized test in the admissions process, many admissions departments are still kind of struggling. It's a harder process in reviewing all applications and so forth. So expect that admissions decisions may take longer. Some of you may be waitlisted, where in the past you may have had a decision a lot quicker. So just giving you that heads up to be prepared for that. Okay, so understanding holistic review. It's tough, it's complicated. But again, it goes back to the original advice we gave in the first 2 or 3 slides. Continue to ask questions of the institutions. Ask them, what do they value most in the holistic review process? Is it a transcript? Is it an interview? Is it an essay? Is it letters of recommendations? Is it extracurricular involvement? Is it leadership potential? Is it standardized test scores? Ask all of those questions before you apply, so you can definitely maximize your opportunities for admissions. Okay. Check my time. We're doing good. I mentioned a couple free tools to use to compare colleges in the search process. Okay. The first one is Know This. All colleges are required by law on their websites, and it's usually on their admissions websites, to have a net price calculator. You can enter your information in there. You can enter financial questions, but the output will come out of what types of grants and scholarships and federal financial aid you can expect, what types of merit-based scholarships you can expect, and it'll also give you an estimated number for your out-of-pocket portion of the total cost: tuition, fees, room and board, miscellaneous, and so forth. So use those. They're out there. And it's mainly on every admissions website, to where there's a net price calculator for every college, public and private. If not, if you have trouble finding those, ask your admissions counselor at that institution. I need access to your net price calculator. I need to do some research. The fact of the matter is this: is some of these colleges will certainly be cost prohibitive. They were for my family and for my children. Didn't stop us from doing the research, didn't stop us from applying and just seeing how much federal financial aid and merit-based scholarships we would qualify for. Again, shows the estimated net price that student, probably should say parent, is likely to contribute. And here's another one. The website's listed. Okay, and it's called the College Navigator. It's a tool created by the U.S. Department of Education and by NCES. Okay, offers a great way to evaluate colleges based upon retention, degrees offered, student loan default rates, and so forth. But what a great way to do a side-by-side comparative analysis of your top colleges. So use that free resource, the College Navigator resource. Okay. So, in conclusion, Advice you get every day from your parents and from friends and high school counselors. And it seems like common knowledge, but it's always good to hear it. Keep things in perspective. Enjoy your high school days. Know that getting into your top choice is not the most important thing. Know that taking advantage of everything there is to offer while you're in college is much more important. Not from me, again, it's from the Ed Conservancy, higher ed institutions, from some extremely selective institutions. Anticipate the variability. I know it will be irritating at some points, but different colleges have different admissions policies and will weight different variables in the application differently. So just anticipate that. And don't think just because one college did it this way, another college will do it that way. And ask questions. I know that seems obvious, but ask questions. I've been in the admissions profession my entire life. I've been blessed to be in the admissions profession my entire life. And it's a great group of professionals that really want to help you. So ask questions. By the way, there's another reason why you should ask questions and contact those admissions counselors. Each one of them are looking for something we call demonstrated interest. And if this may be the best tip I can give you today, make sure you have that demonstrated interest, okay? Because there's a lot of students that are just what we call stealth applicants that have never visited a college, never had any communication, but they apply to my college. And I look in my CRM, it's a little system door. I look, and I have no record of this student. But for the student that came to visit my campus, I'll input that and keep a record of that. They've sent scores, they came to junior programs, they're communicating with the admissions counselors. That's called demonstrated interest. And I'll be the first one to tell you that college admissions directors want students at their college who want to be there. Their chances for success are increased, and their chances to retain and become great alumni are much, much, much greater. Okay, and then last but not least, use the resources I mentioned, use those price calculators, and use the College Navigator tool to really compare your top colleges. Okay, with that said, I think we're at time. A few announcements. Remember to post questions in the chat widget that's out there, and we will get back with you. And then also remember, there's a student panel that will be coming up after this session. So with all that said, thanks for spending your Saturday morning with us, and best of luck to you in the college admissions process. Have a good day.